PRESSCORE, people. I'm David Cruz. Competing headlines this week. Lots happening, in fact, in the final weeks of 2025. Let's bring in the panel. Madison Fernandez is a reporter for Politico. Krystal Knapp is the founder and editor of the Jersey Vindicator. And Aliya Schneider covers New Jersey and Pennsylvania for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Ladies, welcome. Good to see you all. So this all started last week with this hearing on a bill, and we'll talk about that bill in a minute. But the chairman of that hearing, Jim Beach, insulted U.S. Senator Andy Kim. And here we are now, a week later, watching the emergence of Andy Kim, the political avenger. Madison, what has gotten into Andy Kim?
I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise. He was sort of the leader of taking down the county line when he ran for Senate last year. And I think this is just sort of an extension of, what his message was back then, sort of rage against the political machine. And nice. I think for perhaps some of, his constituents and people who voted for him for that very reason, I'm sure that they're excited to see that he's carrying on with that and, didn't change when he made it to Congress. But yeah, I mean, of course, I think he's also getting some pushback from folks like Beach who say, he's acting like a political boss, even though he's railing against the political bosses.
I mean, it's one thing, right, to bemoan the politics of the day, but it's quite another to say, I'm going to primary this, and I'm going to back statewide candidates. And now he's meeting with the new assembly members. This is the kind of a thing that, I mean, if this was George Norcross, I mean, one woman's political reformer is another woman's political boss. And if this were George Norcross doing the same thing, like in that video that Andy Kim is doing, there would be a different reaction, wouldn't there be?
There would be. I also think that George Norcross has a long history in South Jersey, and I think Andy Kim is dipping his toes into this particular maneuver. And I think, how do you define a political boss, right? Like, is it just a leader of a movement, or is it something deeper? And I think we're going to kind of have to wait and see how this plays out. But I don't necessarily think that what Andy Kim's doing inherently makes him a political boss. I don't think it means he's immune to it. But yeah, of course, one person's reformer is another person's boss. That makes sense.
I have been here for 5.5 hours. Yeah, I am missing votes at the Capitol. Give me 30 seconds.
Why do you think you're special?
No,
you're not.
Well,
Krystal, I guess context is everything, right? Your shop had a Q&A with him this week. Was it Jeff Pillitz?
Yes.
You did a Q&A with him?
Last week.
What's Andy Kim's game? What's he doing here?
I'm going to push back on the boss idea. I think Andy Kim's the anti-boss. He has a national platform. He's using it, to continue to dismantle the system that has dominated New Jersey for so long. If he were a boss, he'd use his influence and leverage to tell other politicians what to do, who to hire, how to vote, in exchange for jobs and other favors. I really believe he's trying to create a movement.
So the bill that started all this, the one to control the comptroller, it crashed and burned. That's the other headline this week. It seemed doomed after that hearing. I mean, any insight into what might have happened, or maybe the math just wasn't there, Madison?
Yeah, my colleague Matt Friedman reported that it didn't have a lot of support. I mean, I think you could have told that from the contentious hearing last week. And also Leroy Jones, the chair of the state Democratic Party, was also pushing back against it. And I mean, you could have these powerful, high-profile Democrats not support something and it makes it through anyway. But I think the consensus here was really it just wasn't viable. I'm interested to see if this pops up again and in sort of what iteration it pops up under the Sherrill administration. I mean, she wasn't commenting directly on the legislation because she said she didn't want to weigh in when things were still in process, but she's implied that she is against anything that takes away the power of watchdogs. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this comes up again in any other way under her admin.
Krystal, what is your sense of Scutari now? I mean, he really didn't need this bill, and he seemed to have expended some political capital, at least trying to get it to the floor. So what did this cost him?
I don't know what it cost him beyond embarrassment, but I mean, the way the system works now is I'm sure they had the votes going into this committee because uh, they don't bring things to committee any longer if they don't already have the votes. All the votes are
Yeah.
tallied in the caucus. So I think it's really more the way the whole hearing went down and how terrible it was. I mean, it was just shocking. People had never seen anything like that. My phone was blowing up with people like, OMG, are you watching this? Are you listening? Um, so, and I also think the Democrats have lost a lot of trust with their base between the rollback of campaign finance reform, the gutting of Oprah, and then this. A lot of people's responses to the bill being pulled back is, well, wait and see. I'm sure they're going to try some other maneuver to get this in somehow in some other bill, some other fashion. So there's a lot of distrust in our state government right now.
Yeah. Let's take a minute to welcome Krystal Knapp. I don't know if you were ever on Reporters Roundtable with Michael Aaron. I don't think you were. But this is our first time together in these boxes. So welcome to you.
Thanks, David.
Trenton Times, Planet Princeton, Prison Chaplain, and Jersey Vindicator. I mean, that's a trip right there. Tell me, give me 60 seconds on the Vindicator.
Okay, sure. Actually, I just want to say one thing about being a prison chaplain. I worked for Centurion Ministries. They work to free the innocent from prison. And that's what led me to be a journalist and want to do investigative journalism. So, New Jersey has some great journalists. We just don't have enough journalists. We've lost more journalists than almost any other state in the country. And per capita, a study just came out, we have fewer journalists than any other state except Nevada. And more and more great journalists covering our state don't have the time or resources to do in-depth investigations or features. So we're working at the Vindicator to build a nonprofit journalism organization to fill that gap. And we really want to collaborate with other news organizations as well.
Well, I think we all love that name, and I want the T-shirt. So welcome.
Thanks. New Jersey certainly needs more watchdogs.
Yes, definitely. All right, Schneider, getting back to Mikie Sherrill, we just saw her on Colbert this week with the baby in the back seat story, and in front of more step and repeats than I don't think I've ever seen her in front of before. It's like a national product rollout, no?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mikie Sherrill is very comfortable in the national spotlight. I mean, she came from Congress. She, during her campaign, did a lot of national media hits. I think in certain examples, the national media sometimes got better access to her than the local media did. And I would also say she went on Jon Stewart's podcast
Yep.
also after she won election. And I think this national profile that she's had has been rising. And I think now that she has become the governor-elect, I don't think they want to abandon that. And I think she is very comfortable speaking about national issues. That's where her background is. And she's able to use that. And maybe in a way that's good for Jersey to kind of bring Jersey more into the national consciousness. Maybe it's not good. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think Mikie Sherrill, definitely her team is utilizing on this national attention. And I think that is in a way their comfort zone.
Folks in New Jersey want you to be Jersey focused, I think. You run the risk of getting Cory Booker-like if you get there too quickly. Madison, slow your roll or you go, girl?
I mean, I think in this transition period in lame duck, it's not her job yet. Why not have fun and go through all this stuff? I think she's been very clear about, everything she wants to do on day one. And as long as she actually follows through on that, like it's not day one yet. So why not?
Krystal, is it ever too early?
Well, I don't know. I just think so much can happen in the next 2 years, and she hasn't even taken over as governor yet. So it seems a little early to me.
Yeah. Any news coming out of the transition? I mean, they got a big transition team, but not very many announcements. Do we know Madison, if there's going to be any announcements coming up in the next week or so?
I mean, I don't know about the next week or so, but it's certainly running out of time before she gets
Yeah.
inaugurated. But we are still waiting on some big posts, like Attorney General, I think is very top of mind. That's one that came up a lot during the campaign, especially because she was saying she wants to appoint someone who will stand up to Trump, and that was her whole thing during the campaign. So I think like what I'm looking for is really how is she going to follow through on everything she talked about during her campaign, and yeah.
Krystal, she's got a chief of staff and a chief operating officer. I mean, overlap much?
To me, that signals that she's going to try to run the government like a business, kind of with that new title. So be very business minded in the way she runs government. But
I
I
don't know
can't.
if that's always a good sign.
Some people say Jeff Tittle would say it's not.
Yeah.
Former Sierra Club director.
Yeah. Madison, I was talking to Andrew Zwicker this week on Hold That Thought. We were talking about the future of public broadcasting, which is an interesting story that's developing, but not why I brought him up. I brought him up because I asked him if he's going to run for Congress. I think he's in the 12th district. So many candidates, the 12th, the 7th, the 11th. One of the Republicans, I think it's in the 11th, says he's the only Republican running. He wants to debate all the other 12 Democrats who are running. Why are so many people running for Congress?
Well, it has to do with, all of these retirements, Governor-elect Sherrill becoming governor-elect, that vacancy, that special election is coming up very soon. It's in February. But I think a big reason is because of the elimination of the county line, like we were talking about earlier. A lot more candidates feel like, why shouldn't I try and run if it's not going to be essentially pre-decided by party bosses? So I think that has a lot to do with it, but also, like I said, there's just a lot of vacancies in Congress. So I think that in pretty safe Democratic seats, more or less, minus the 7th. But I think that gives an opportunity for some of these progressive anti-establishment types to really, gain another voice in Congress. They're riding this momentum right now, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the primaries.
There aren't as many wacky candidates as I expected. What did you expect?
I mean, I think it makes sense that a lot of
Because these are
experience.
A-listers that are running.
I think it makes sense, like Madison said, given the fall of the line, that people who feel like they have a real shot at getting elected are giving it a shot without the support of the machines. So in the past, there may have been tons of people who really could have done well in the election who didn't bother because they weren't the machine favorite. And now they can shoot their shot and say, you know what, I think I'm able to win this race, and it's actually feasible now. So I just think that the fall of the line has actually opened up more healthy competition among really experienced and strong candidates. And we saw that in the governor's race.
Also, Krystal, conveniently enough, there's so much money available, right? I mean, we can make an independent expenditure group to run Madison for mayor of Madison before we're through with this show.
Yes, yes.
Right? I mean, there's just so much money.
Yes. Also, I live in the 12th district, so I would say it's any Republican knows it's a kamikaze mission running there right now. We barely have Republicans running for local office, and they do very poorly at the county level. So I think these competitive primaries are a good thing. Competitive elections are really healthy for democracy. At the local level, too many people have no choices. In Princeton, where I used to live, we haven't had a competitive election in, I think, 6 years.
My inbox is flooded with emails about candidate X is endorsed by such and such a person, and candidate Y, another person, this union. Why is that significant? Do voters get influenced by that? Aliya, you think?
Often with endorsements, I personally think it's less about like directly, oh, this group endorsed someone, this voter is going to support them, and maybe more about the influence and reach that whoever's endorsing has. And I think we saw that with the governor's race, where people who got the endorsements from these different county parties, it's not necessarily that they were on the line, but they had the county apparatus behind them and campaigning for them. So if there's a certain influential figure or group, it's not necessarily just that that person endorsed them, but it's what's behind that just endorsement. What resources and influence do they have behind the scenes?
Right. And there's also, I mean, just that gets reported as news. Krystal, I see you nodding your head. It gets reported as news because that's like the sports pages, right?
Yeah, I just don't get the focus on these endorsements. To me, it's like also an attempt to get more press, kind of like letters to the editor endorsing candidates. And my inbox was just flooded with those press releases, and I mostly ignore them and archive them.
I guess, like you got Bernie Sanders endorsing Analia Mejia. That's a little different than like a faceless, like you could say 32BJ or name another union, and it doesn't really have a face. But if you say Bernie Sanders, I guess an endorsement like that, Madison, may count a little more than some other esoteric group.
I think it helps establish her lane, especially because you have so many Democrats running in this primary. I think when you have the Sanders endorsement, it's like, oh, that's the progressive candidate. But I mean, there's plenty of other progressive candidates in the race, but I think just at first glance, that definitely helps with that. But I mean, I think like Aliya said, even with the unions, it helps with get out the vote and everything like that. And especially when you just have weeks before the primary, like any of that outside help is going to be really helpful. And I am also interested to see, like you mentioned, the money before, what the independent expenditures are going to look like here. I just reported that the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association is going to be doing an independent expenditure for Tahisha Way. So it's unclear how much, but any amount's gonna be helpful when you literally have weeks before the primary.
Also, ranked choice voting. The bill, I think, was introduced again by Andrew Squicker. Krystal, is the 10th time the charm for this?
Well, we'll see. I think Andrew Zwicker's backing it. Danielson's backing it.
Yeah.
It looks like it has some momentum this time. Um,
Maybe, a big maybe.
you think it's a big maybe?
Um,
Several candidates in New Jersey primaries were nominated with a minority of the votes. So ranked choice voting would avoid this. So this might be the reason it finally makes it.
I've done, sorry, really quick. I've done a
ahead.
lot of reporting on ranked choice voting in other states, and I think you also have to consider the opposition that's going to come with this. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of outside money coming in to go against whatever effort, if there is actually momentum here. It's often controversial.
Yeah. Is there ever going to be anything that requires a vote in New Jersey that's not going to have tons of outside money coming in ever again?
That's true.
The other headline this week was Alina Habba. Almost forgot about her. Is she already yesterday's news, Aliya?
I don't think so. I don't think we know that she's going away. First of all, she's basically, in a way, being promoted to a position that
Yeah.
is overseeing attorney generals nationally. I guess it depends whether you see that as a promotion or not. But the Trump administration has also basically said or suggested that they're not letting this go away and that they're kind of doing a further legal review. So whether they try to take it to the Supreme Court or they try to do some other maneuver, we don't know yet, but they've definitely suggested that they're not giving up on this. And the decision to have her step down, that may be part of their legal strategy. We don't know what's driving these decisions, but I definitely don't think she's going away in the news. I think it's just a matter of when and what exactly they're going to try to do.
Is that going to have any impact, Madison, on anything pending in New Jersey? I'm looking at Newark and the councilwoman,
I
the
mean,
congresswoman.
I mean, it might. But something else I'll say is I don't think Democrats are going to let this go away either. This is one of the tangible wins that they had this year. You know, you could have Democrats say, look, we stopped, Trump's hand-picked, lawyer from being in this high position in New Jersey. So I think it's going to stay in the public consciousness for a bit.
Yeah. Krystal, speaking of Democratic wins, the Democrats feel like they're on a roll right now, right? It's like the beginning of a big blue wave. Yeah?
Yes, but I felt like they felt very confident in passing this legislation about the comptroller, and they feel like they have a mandate given the election results. But I think they're not always reading the room correctly, and that they also have to understand how much of the vote was a vote against Trump. That's my feeling.
Democrats not reading the room. What? Social Democrats win 2 seats in Jersey City. Big deal or not so big a deal?
I think it's a big deal for the DSA because these are some of the only elected DSA officials in the state. So, I mean, definitely building their
Socialists
footprint.
of America, DSA.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also think that it had a lot more to do with, again, like we were talking about this anti-establishment, anti-machine movement, more so than like, oh, I'm voting for a Democratic Socialist.
Yeah.
Because I just think this momentum is here for the movement right now.
Krystal, also all politics is local.
Yes, we covered the Jersey City race.
Yeah.
I think labels don't matter as much as they used to. I think people are, just fed up with business as usual. And really, they're willing to support anyone willing to tackle real problems right now. They ran a campaign focused on affordability, and that resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah. Lastly, I forgot to mention this last week. Dana DeFilippo of New Jersey Monitor, she made the White House enemies list, which for a guy of my vintage is a badge of honor. But today may not be so cool. It may be a sign of terrible things to come. I see you shaking your head there, Krystal.
Well, it's really terrible the way they created this list. It encourages people to harass and dox the reporters mentioned. And her story in question was factual. I just think it's bizarre that the White House is so fixated on this and wasting time and energy on this also. But it really is directly targeting the reporters who then get hate mail. I think she had to take her social media account down, I believe her X account.
Madison, not so cool in today's day and age to be the enemy of the state when the state has so many tools at its disposal.
Yeah, and I mean, like we said before, we're a small press corps in New Jersey, so I think it resonates even more. And at the Monitor, they're a smaller newsroom, so yeah.
I also want to add that this wasn't even Dana's article. She was sharing her colleague Sophie's article and kind of rephrasing an aspect of it in her tweet. And so it kind of just shows how careful reporters have to be about everything. I think even just casually tweeting something to share another story. I mean, the White House was reacting to Dana's tweet, not even the article itself, to my understanding.
Which in and of itself pretty much says it all. All right, PRESSCORE is done for the week. Aliya, Madison, Krystal, thanks all of you for joining us this week. And thanks all of you for liking and subscribing, which I know you're doing right now. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you next week.